Welcome to the Becoming You show, where limits get torched and possibility takes the mic. I'm Leah Rowling, human in permanent beta, neurostrategist, mom to 3 amazing humans, married to 1 legendary soul, and your no-fluff permission slip to stop waiting. Every week, we rewire brain patterns, smash hand-me-down mindsets, and dive into the daring, identity-shifting conversations most people dodge. Ready to turn potential into proof? Grab your pen. Your next chapter starts now. Hello, my beautiful friends. It's Leah, and I'm so grateful that you pressed play today. Maybe you're catching this on a morning commute, maybe a walk, or kind of sandwiched in between golf meets and spreadsheets, but wherever you are, I thank you. I thank you for carving out space to learn, space to unlearn, and step, right? One kind of breath at a time into the promise of your potential. If you lead anything, a teeny startup, a household of dreamers, or simply lead the swirling thoughts in your own mind, today's episode is for you, because we're going to talk about culture today. Culture isn't wall art. It's the unseen engine, I'll call it, that literally steers every conversation, every decision, every heartbeat of progress. And when we leave this engine running on autopilot, when we leave this engine running on default, accountability drifts, energy leaks, and the dream that we started with begins to stall. And again, that can be a dream for your business. That can be a dream for your family. That can be a dream for your own life. And so we want to start today with just a quick gut check, right? I want you to picture your last team meeting, or perhaps even the last dinner with your family, or maybe that pep talk that you had in the mirror with yourself this morning as you were brushing your teeth. And I want you to ask yourself, did it feel electric? Did it feel inspiring? Did it feel inspirational? Or did it feel like everybody's body was present while their spirit was somewhere else? Anywhere but here, distracted. And I really want you to think about it. I want you to think about the children at the dinner table in the conversation. Were they there? Really there? Your team meeting, were they there? Were they really there? Brushing your teeth in the mirror. Were you there? Were you really there? Or were you distracted thinking about all of the things that you had to do? And whatever it is, there's no judgment. I just want you to consider that if that's the case, if there was no energy there, if there was no intention there, if there was no inspiration there, that culture within you, around your table, and in your team meetings, it's probably slipped into some autopilot, okay? And I thought I'd bring to you kind of the 3 signs that you could easily identify as to whether or not we are in conscious mode or in autopilot mode. And the first one is kind of the whatever wave, right? Or the whatever nod, right? Decisions, conversations greeted like yes, with a head nod and maybe the shoulder shrug, right? Instead of like sparked eyes and curious minds and reciprocated dialoguing, okay? So where to watch out for in these conversations, right? With self, with your team, with your family, is when you get the kind of whatever shrug just know that that is an invitation, an opportunity. Okay. Because I think all too often we label the problems in our families, the problems with ourselves, the problem with our teams as people problems. And I want to shake that up for you today, because we don't have people problems. And this is great because you can't solve for them. And I'm not ever going to give you tools that are going to leave you more frustrated. But culture opportunities, yes, we can solve for those. And that's what we're going to do today. So just know that whenever there's this whatever wave or with this whatever shrug, or you're having a conversation with somebody and they give you this nod, and you know what this nod means. This nod means that they're just kind of placating and lip servicing you until they can get out of your office as fast as they can. Okay, just know there's opportunity there. The chronic clarification would be the second kind of notice for you. And that kind of looks like this. Wait, what are we doing again? Right? If you find yourself going, oh, here we go again, or if I have to explain this thing one more time, or I don't know why they just don't get it. Okay. These are all culture opportunities. Okay. And the last one that I want you to consider is win the room. Again, I want you to go back to dinner with your family last night, or in the team meeting room, or in your bathroom with you, just you. Did the room energize you, or did it suck more life out of you? If you leave meetings feeling heavier, not lighter, there is an opportunity, right? There isn't an opportunity for you to maybe take some of the insights that we're going to be talking about in this podcast to shift it so that we can have more peace, we can have more clarity, we can have more connection. So when we think about it, when we think about the culture, right? Every business, every family, every person has a culture that is built on a stack of personal cultures, yours included, right? So I want you to think of your personal culture as your inner GPS, the beliefs, the feelings, the micro habits that kind of steer your daily choices long before, right, a KPI ever appears on a dashboard, long before spreadsheets, team audits, performance reviews, long before all of that. So if you can grab a journal, right, or use your notes in your phone or wherever you are, I want you to ask yourself just a couple of questions around the culture of you. Because when you know the culture of you, everything else falls into place. When you know the culture of you, you know what to do. You create behaviors, you create micro habits that ultimately get the results that you're looking for in your life. So the first question that I want to ask you is more around a belief check, right? This is a first culture conversation. And the belief check is around, what story am I telling about who I am and what's possible today? And I don't want you to hear that question and be like, yeah. I've asked myself that. I'm not interested. And I want you to hear that question. And I don't want you to discount the answer. What story am I telling about who I am and what is possible today? Because the answer to that, my beautiful friends, will show up in every single result for you. And most of the time, if we don't answer that question with a level of high intention and high consciousness, we are not going to like the result. And then we're going to blame the result on our circumstances and our situations and our life. And I want more for you. So take a beat. You deserve 2 minutes to answer this question. What are you telling yourself about what's possible for you today? What are you telling about yourself about who you are? You've got to want more for yourself than anyone else. You've got to. if you want to live the biggest possible life. And my hypothesis for this show and every podcast that I do is that you do, because otherwise you wouldn't waste your time listening to me yammer on about your potential. But you've got to believe in it. You've got to believe in it. So that's the first check. It's a belief check. What is possible for you today? You've got to know it. And if you don't believe that anything is possible for you in your life, then you got to borrow my belief in you, friend. You've just got to. Okay. Then we run an emotional pulse, right? What emotions, right, are running the show for me this week? And do I like them? If you are running emotions of overwhelm, if you are running emotions of resentment, if you're running emotions of regret, if you're running emotions of anger and disgust, awesome. All of those are opportunities for you to shift out of the indulgent emotion that your brain thinks is super necessary, super preventative, but it slows down the progress of your life. And you can shift into higher frequency emotions. This is not voodoo. This is science. There are higher emotional frequencies and there are lower emotional frequencies. I want you operating at the higher emotional frequencies. Why? Because I care tremendously about, one, the behaviors that are required in high emotional frequencies, okay? And the results that come about from the behaviors of high emotional frequencies. You can trace back every single result to a behavior, and you can trace that behavior back to the emotional frequency that is driving that behavior. So yes, I want you to be mindful of, one, the belief, what that actually fuels the emotion. If you don't believe that what you want is possible in your life, you are going to be sitting in a negative and a low vibration emotion frequency. That is not the frequency that is going to motivate you to take the behavior and to do what is required for you to get your result. All of this matters. Okay. So now once you've captured the belief that you're going to put in your back pocket and wear, that belief is going to inspire a level of higher frequency emotion like curiosity, bravery, courage, confidence. That is the fuel that is going to drive the behavior, which is the next scan. What habit or micro habits am I practicing today that my future self is applauding or dreading? It all starts and stops with the belief of possibility. Let's break this down. If you believe that whatever it is that you want in this life is possible, and I'm telling you that it is, because you wouldn't want it, it wouldn't be a possibility for you if you didn't have what it takes. So you do, and you just have to believe that. So if you believe that that's true, that fuels a certain level of confidence, and that's the confidence that becomes the motivation in order to take the action that's required for the result that you want in your life. And I want you to play this back. I want you to think about a result that you want in your life, and you will begin to believe and understand the truth in this process. And if you don't take that belief and you believe that it isn't possible and that you've tried everything and it's a big waste of your time, that belief is going to fuel hopelessness, despair, frustration, probably a little anger, maybe some overwhelm. None of those emotions are motivating. None of those emotions are going to have you choose on purpose what is required for you in order to get the results that you want. Either way, your future self is standing, waiting in either applause and gratitude and massive appreciation, or in dread. In dread. You get to decide. That becomes the culture of you. That becomes your internal GPS. In that, you create an internal accountability the kind that doesn't need necessarily cheerleaders or checklists, the kind that you can invoke just with a question, right? And if that is true for you, beautiful friends, guess what else is true? It's true for your team members. They have an internal accountability system, an internal culture that can be inspired, when you know the formula. You've got kids that also have an internal GPS and an internal accountability system that all stems from a belief, that all stems from a commitment to something greater than they are, right? Pretending that they don't is like ignoring gravity because you can't see it. So how do all of these individual GPS systems merge in your life with your family and your marriage and your team without colliding, right? So I want you to imagine this culture, right, all coming together, right? And maybe you think of it like a quilt, right? Maybe you think of it like a quilt where each square on this quilt is a pattern, okay? Unique to the individual square, just like it's unique to every human's individuality and their source of agency and their source of autonomy, okay? Everybody brings their own square of feelings and strengths and fears and dreams and quirks. Leadership, your leadership, right, really invites you to bring those squares into a pattern that serves the larger vision of the promise of your business. And it honors each patch, each person. Because this is what I know to be true about individuals. Rarely is an individual waking up today passionate about your company's mission. Rarely do they wake up super wickedly excited about the values that you've laid out and posted in frames on your wall. But you know what they do wake up for? They wake up passionate about their potential inside that mission. And when you champion their square, when you help them see how it fits, engagement rockets, right? So how do we align all of these patches without smothering their individuality and their agency, right? We keep the KPIs, you know what those are for yourself, you know what those are for your family, and you know what those are for your team, because they're the score, but we ensure them through the key behavioral indicators. Behaviors are the path, right? KPIs are the proof that the path is working. KBIs, the behavior, is how we do what we need to do. KPIs is the result of what it is that we do. So we get to understand that when we understand how people do work by way of behaviors, by way of how they feel, by way of what they believe to be true, we now have a lens with which to bring all of this full circle into a structure of accountability. A structure where we can flip the script on having people problems into culture opportunities. Because most founders, right, didn't launch a company, didn't start a company, didn't have this idea to employ people and pay them. They didn't have this idea to chase timesheets and create SOPs and offer up feedback. They launched this company, right, to change something beautiful in the world, right? But what happens is the bigger you get, the easier it is to feel kind of like a glorified payroll manager. And so when we create a framework for accountability by way of not just KPIs, but KBIs, meaning you will like working here if. You will like working here if you like growth, if you like feedback, if you like a blueprint to win, if you like challenging conversations into a potential, if you honor integrity, if you are a person that says and does what they mean, you will like working here. But if we don't establish those agreements, then we don't have an accountability framework. What we have is our labels and our opinions. That's what we have. If we have not agreed upon these certain non-negotiables, then when we bring forward our opinion, it is going to be received with defensiveness. Nobody woke up today and thought of themselves most likely the way that you're thinking of them. And so when you bring something to them in your opinion or your label, they will for sure deny it. They will justify it. They will argue it. They will defend it and explain it away. That is what they will do. They will most likely even do that if you bring to them a fact. But I want us to have accountability conversations in facts, not opinions. And so when we think about accountability as a leader, as somebody that is a steward of the promise of the business, right? Your job is to account for ability. And you do that, one, by understanding that everybody's a patch in your quilt, by understanding that they have beliefs about what is true and what is not true about them, that based on those beliefs, it will generate certain feelings of either confidence or insecurity. And because of those emotions, they will behave accordingly and ultimately create results or the lack of results accordingly. And when you know this, you can have human conversations that enroll them into the potential that is required for the role. But the art of accountability and the art of difficult conversations get lost on us because too often we bring forward these conversations by way of our own labels because we haven't established the agreements that will be laid out in the KBIs. So I want you to think about full circle this conversation. We all have an inner GPS. We all have an accountability culture within. We patch those together where we are all clear on the agreements of what it looks like to work here. We know the responsibilities of the role. We know what it looks like to win. We will continue to cultivate A+, self-led, high performers in our organization. We lack that. We lack feedback. We lack the quote unquote difficult conversations. You know what we have? We have a disaster. We have a disaster. This accountability framework is required if you want to grow. The accountability framework is required for you if you want to grow individually the accountability framework is required for you if you want to evolve your family into a unit of high performance, and it's required for your company. If you want to grow, if you want to scale, the only sustainable way to do that is to create results through people, through team members. You cannot grow without them. We need them on board. We need them on board with the promise of your business. What is your business here to do? If your business could talk, what would it say it's here to do? We have to anchor into that promise. That becomes the North Star for every single decision, every single hire, every single fire, and every single conversation that we have. We get agreements from our team members, agreements around what it looks like to be a team member in this business, all committed to the same promise. And a promise is different than a mission, and agreements are different than values. That's a podcast for another day. But once you have the promise and once you have the agreements, then you get to have those difficult conversations. And they're only difficult because up until now, you probably haven't had a basis for the conversation other than your opinion. I love the idea of agreements because it's not a foreign concept. Most of us know what it means to have an agreement with somebody. If I have an agreement with you to have coffee with you at 9 and I don't show up, there's a relational opportunity there for you to text me, call me, and say, hey, what's up? There's a level of expectation there that doesn't exist in values. It's, hey, I agree to these terms and conditions when I said yes to the role. That is an easier conversation than not having any sort of basis for behavioral alignment. This is what this framework gives you. Accountability is the kindest thing, and it is the most required thing if you are a human that wants to grow, and I believe that you do. Otherwise, you wouldn't continue to be here with me on this show. If you have a business, a lot of my listeners do, this is required for your business. And if you have a family, this is required for you to scale, to grow, and to really create massive amounts of possibility in the hearts and minds of those that you get to love and that you get to lead and that you get to serve. So with that, my beautiful friends, I will end with accountability is kind. We use it to enroll people in possibility and potential. And there is a framework to do it that is also kind. So have a beautiful one. And until next time, we'll see you then. Take care. Bye-bye. If this episode cracked something open, good. Let it. And then head to leahrollingcoaching.com and grab the tools to rewire the story and reclaim your future. It is yours. And then share this with someone who's still waiting to be chosen, still waiting for permission, and remind them they don't need a breakthrough, that they are the breakthrough. Until next time, my beautiful friends, invest in you and keep becoming.